Okay, good morning. My name is Violeta Orlović Lovren. I'm teaching in Faculty of Philosophy, University of Belgrade. And next to me, there is my colleague Nikola Koruga.
Hello everyone, I hope that you can hear me. I'm also from Faculty of Philosophy, Department for Pedagogy and Andragogy, and I'm Professor Assistant.
Thank you, Nikola. Thank you all. It is really great pleasure for us to participate in this important process for the second time. We participated in Podgorica previously, and we've learned a lot from that experience. Thank you all who participated also last time and gave us a feedback. Feedback is very important to every lecturer, to every trainer, and especially in connection to critical thinking. From introductory speeches, which I hope you've heard almost all of them, we learned about some really keywords. One of keyword that I heard is exactly feedback, also innovation, also interdisciplinary cooperation, all very important topics and aspects of critical thinking. Though in topics that you see within the agenda and in names and outcomes that I will shortly present, you will recognize focus on teaching and teaching capacities and competencies. Please bear in mind that we even can't split between teaching and researching and scientific focus, because all of us, we are engaged in some scientific field. And great thing of this project and many other cooperations that really people from different disciplines are gathered. So as you can see in our timeline here, we are a little bit behind in terms of timing, but we will really try to compensate that and to leave some time for questions and answers or a short discussion at least within this first part. And after the coffee break, which I suppose even online friends will organize for themselves, we will hear from our colleague Mirza Žižek and also from our colleagues from Verla presenting this LMS, Learning Management Platform. And for the next day, we regret that people who are online today are not going to be present, but we will make sure we provide you with forms, with tools, and with some guiding materials that you can use in your work, hopefully before we meet next time online at the end of March. That's our plan, and always at the beginning, of course, we plan, we put some aims, we try to see where it leads us, and in the left column, as you can see, we define some aims, some goals, some expectations that we have, and generally it touches upon critical thinking principles and principles of nano and micro-learning, as well as we also plan to practice a little bit and to improve our critical thinking competencies in digital learning environment. Outcomes are maybe not very visible all here, but I'm sure you can read them. I will not read them here, but as you can see, it is operationalization of the goals as it usually is, and not only this theoretical part, our thinking about critical thinking, but also that segment of application is included, but also reflection. We are going to make sure at least we leave 5 or 10 minutes at the end of this part before coffee break, and to invite you really, please, those who are online and those who are on site, to participate with your experiences, not only with questions or comments. But for the beginning, if we open the space here for reflection on our thoughts and our beliefs or definitions, personal definitions of critical thinking, we would like to invite you to go through these sentences and to answer with yes or no. But since we are dealing with digital tools here and opportunities, please use a QR code in your right angle. You should find questions there, and if you can, please quickly fill up this questionnaire by answering yes or no. We should see the results on our screen. But, what we can do is to just maybe ask a few of you to answer in the chat. For instance, if I read first statement, which is a critical thinker is someone who always split hairs, maybe all those who think yes can write in the chat. If no one writes, then we will take it as you disagree with this statement. I will ask colleague in the room to raise their hand.
Strongly agree.
Okay, there is strong agreement here. Okay,
yes.
Interesting. Anybody else?
Yes, but not necessarily.
Okay, we hear yes, but not necessarily. Okay, I think we can try another one. For instance, there is no place for emotions in the process of critical thinking. Yes or no?
Yes. It shouldn't be, but I think that always is.
Okay, thank you very much. What you are doing now is obviously thinking critically, because it is not really possible to just agree or disagree with this type of sentences, as it is very often the case. As you can see, you were all right. It is very difficult to claim that critical thinking is also one side of the story. So we have yes and no as answers to all these statements. Are you surprised with some of explanations here? For instance, critical thinking develops spontaneously during schooling. It doesn't need to be fostered through special educational programs. We have even yes, telling us that there are different paths toward the ability to think critically. And at the same time, not only teachers, but all of us obviously do need systemic support in order not only to teach critical thinking, but also to think critically. There are many studies proving nowadays that it is really not spontaneously happening, but the practice is needed. So therefore, I'm also happy to have opportunity to participate in this project who fosters critical thinking also through these trainings, because it is really very few of it in our countries. At least. So I would invite all of you to come back to these statements after this training, to think about them and to have them in mind. It is really illustrating the idea that it is so wrong to try to think only from one side about phenomena, especially about complex phenomena, like critical thinking is. So we will try to tackle some really very shortly. We learned from last training that we shouldn't go very deeply in theoretical approach. You can read about that. But now Nikola will help us to go through, just to remind us on some theoretical approaches and some also important aspects of critical thinking before we start thinking as teachers more about the approach to critical thinking. Let's remind ourselves or share a common understanding that is part of the approach of this project about critical thinking, so that we can exchange later on about our experiences. I will replace seats with
Just to be sure that
Nikola. Yes.
we will be heard well. And yes, we should start first with critical thinking in science education. And if we see this definition of recommendation of definition from European Commission, especially where that European Union recognize that for responsible citizenship is really key, one of the key values to understand how science works and what scientific results brings to us as a society. We can see that the scientific education promote a culture of scientific thinking and inspire citizens to use evidence-based reasoning for decision making. In that definition, we could see a lot of overlapping with definitions of critical thinking, because decision making is part of critical thinking, and also use evidence-based reasoning, and reasoning at all is part of critical thinking. Since critical thinking, we can see that entails awareness of one's own thinking and reflection on the thinking of self and others as object of cognition. And we see that cognition is somehow part of that definition, but at the same time we have awareness of thinking of others, and we should compare information, and we should be open and ready to listen others' points of view, and also be open for new information which is challenging our actual experience. And if we little bit examine different positions, different authors and definitions of critical thinking, we could see that there is different points of view also when we are coming to field of critical thinking at all. For example, the first group of authors thinks that we should talk about general ability to perform and apply operations of macro and micro characters, which means that we are applying some really logical structures, rules, how to examining the ability to critical thinking, to think critically. The second group of authors thinks that we should put much more focus on knowledge, on the level of knowledge, how much knowledge we collect. As much as we know something, our ability for critical thinking is growing. And the third group of authors thinks that we should combine these two definitions, these two approaches, and the fourth, Zero and Brookfield, it's really one of the most important for us from adult education, because they thought that only adults could critical think well, because they validate their previous experiences and previous learning, and they thought as much as experience we have, we should critically examine that and improve our ability for critical thinking. But that story is just beginning, because critical thinking is not just ability. There is a lot of different tests which you could use to prove your level of critical thinking, or to measure different aspects of critical thinking. And you could see one of those tests, which aspects should be
tested. This is induction, deduction, credibility, identification of assumptions. It's really some procedures, we could say, for a good thinking and reasoning. But another part of the story is that we should take care also about our dispositions or our qualities for critical thinking, what we should embed it in our statements, how we should behave when we are start to think critically. And you can see these qualities listed, and also at QR code. I hope it will work now for everyone. You could see one of those examples, one of those scales for critical thinking dispositions. It's also scale developed, and it consists of 11 questions and two parts. Which one could tell you a little bit more how your critical openness on the scale and reflective skepticism on the scale. That scale measured these two dimensions. And I would like to invite you you don't need to answer all of those questions, but if you wish you can. But the idea is just to see which kind of questions we could question when we are measuring our critical thinking dispositions. And all of these tools could be useful when you would like to test some programs, or when you would like to try out some new approaches, or when you would like to identify the level of critical thinking, on the readiness for critical thinking within your team. And then you should repeat the same tools, the same scales and tests if you would like to follow up what is going on in your team during some project or some educational program. But you need to left some certain time for people to be adapted to this kind of skills and abilities. For example, 1 month and at least it should be left for developing of those skills. I hope that you had a chance to see the questions. If you have any comment, please put in our chat box. And I will just continue with the question how to apply critical thinking in science. And first of all, we should have a motivation and predispositions to reflect and discuss. It sounds easy, but it's not so much, especially when we have a lot of experience in some field and we are facing with some results which is not confirming our hypothesis. We know that that is the most exciting part of the science. And also we should be open for critique of our work. But another part, I think you're familiar with that so much, that searching for information for reliable sources together with analysis and interpretation and social practices, both in purely scientific context, application of critical thinking in science, it's really present, and all aspects, all phases of scientific research embedded critical thinking in it. And we should be open to doubts about our knowledge, what we know, what we don't know, what we should fill into the gaps of our knowledge, and also to be creative and try to think out of the box in some cases when we should find a solution for some complex problems. And here is one practical example about recognition of assumptions. A lot of authors of critical thinking thought that recognition of assumption is a key ability in critical thinking skills. And when you read this statement, I have 20 years of experience in practice. I know how things work. Could you agree with that, but at the same time try to find what you think that is assumptions behind that statement? What that person thinks when saying something like that? We could use one of really useful tools, which is chain of thoughts. It's a tool which break down the way of thinking, how we are think about that statement in several steps. And this could be useful. You can read more about that on one of really fresh scientific papers about different tools, application of these tools in artificial intelligence and large language models like ChatGPT or any other brands of large language models. When you got outputs from large language models, you should ask it for breakdown into the chain of thoughts. Sometimes the models and the applications will tell you, I cannot uncover my way of thinking, but I will try to structure the response as much as I can. Even you can try it now while I'm explaining how you could use that if you have open your account, if you have open account in any of those applications. First of all, we are trying to understand, is that experience equal with valid knowledge? Then we are questioning, does every experience automatically lead to understanding or just repetition of habits? We try to reflect on our previous experience. Then we try to find some of assumptions which is alternative assumption for that statement. One of those could be experience can reinforce assumptions rather than challenge them. And then there is a critical reflective question, what assumptions have I taken for granted here? And at the end, we try to find some of the solution for this statement and the process of thinking. Now we will change our seats again.
Change again, okay. Symbolically, in adult education, we like to say that we really like to change positions of teachers and learners all the time, even physically, in this case. And maybe this, I'm thinking about this previous example that we agreed to present you with here, and maybe it really sounds artificial. We can ask ourselves, in real life, how often do we do that exercise? We have statement, we have experience in some field, and how often, frankly, do we ask ourselves, if I say experience, what do I mean? Or if I do something that was successful, even in either in research or in teaching, why should I change it, for God's sake? And these tools really helps us to maybe to imitate a bit, I would say, artificial intelligence, which answers that it doesn't want to reveal their way of thinking, but can structure things. So in those terms, it is obviously useful to use it in this function, maybe to structure our way of self-reflecting, because as most of definitions nowadays are telling us, is if we do not nurture critical reflections in ourselves, either as researchers or as teachers, how can we impact science, or how can we bring some changes, or how can we impact thoughts of other people that we share knowledge with. So finally we came to formula. I hope that some scientists among us are really happy. In social sciences we avoid formulas as much as we can, but this one we thought is really very illustrative to show what we were reminding us of before. It is that there is complexity of approaches to critical thinking, and there is complexity of critical thinking itself. It really consists of all those aspects. Many studies reveal nowadays. If we have knowledge and experience about something that is necessary, but obviously researchers claim not enough to critically think. I'm sure all of us know many people who are highly knowledgeable in some field, but we can't hear them very often openly or critically discuss on things. And very often people tend to reduce critical thinking only to this reasoning, to logical, to cognitive components. And studies teach us that yes, intellectual skills are necessary for critical thinking, but critical thinking is ability that develops more or less, is based on abilities that develop more or less around 20 years, and it is present, and it works well in comparison with intellectual skills longer than intellectual skills. Also, intelligent tests, they can't test critical thinking, they test our other abilities. And one other thing studies showed is that intelligence and intellectual skills do not depend that much on knowledge like critical thinking. So those are some differences telling us that these are not the same abilities. And attitudes, as Nikola tackled before, we are all also aware of people who are very silent, which doesn't mean really that they do not critically think. What they maybe do not possess is some traits of their personalities, some contextual or some individual or social traits that keep them silent. And therefore, it is said that if we want to discuss critical thinking as complete, as complex phenomenon, we also need to practice and to reflect on that affective aspect, which provides us with critical stance, with openness, with what studies show that is also one of predisposition important for open critical thinking is that strong sense of justice and injustice, for example, or even courage to openly discuss some things. So therefore, in our formula, attitudes and context are so important. So maybe you disagree with some aspect, maybe we can critically reflect on that, we can leave it for our later discussion. What was also studied and what we know today from many studies is that to think critically, never mind that knowledge is not enough, but it is really necessary. Some authors ask themselves and ourselves, what do we think about if we don't know nothing about the issue of thinking? So that sounds logical, isn't it? Also, metacognitive abilities and this reflection is in the core of many theories and many approaches, and very important for us as teachers and researchers. In its simplest, broadest sense, metacognition is defined as ability to think about our thinking, or cognition about cognition. It is, as we know, psychologists and social science experts usually use that metacognitive position when they ask us to monitor ourselves, our behavior, our relations with others, and ask us to kind of, step aside and try to understand. In that way, in metacognitive processes, we should monitor our thinking procedures and how we really relate to all the aspects of behavior or of some issue, scientific issue that we deal with, and are we really doing all what we can to look at that from different perspectives. I'm sure you know in history of science that many scientific groundbreaking achievements did happen in moments when scientists completely change or slightly change at least their way of thinking and looking at some points. As we see, if we are teachers or if we are members or leaders of some scientific researchers team, we do need really to know that, as I mentioned at the beginning, that feedback is so important. We know what we are doing as professors, for instance. We constantly provide feedback to our students, sometimes very successfully, sometimes well accepted, sometimes not. But that is the way we nurture their development, isn't it? That is the way we provide them with information where they stand. And at the same time, if we do not have that information about our behavior, teaching, research stance, results, and so on, how can we go further on? So it is really value of feedback very important, not only to develop it in ourselves, but really to practice with our associates and students. Also, studies reveal that questioning, case studies, and debates really relate very well with metacognitive competencies, and we should use it, I say, not only in teaching, but also in research and collaboration context as well. So really in our practice, how often do we question some statements? This is really funny exercise if you want to go through that now. Just imagine that after any sentence we put the question mark. They say it might lead us towards more critical thinking, more critical attitude about some statements. Do we take it for granted really in our practice? Or if we go back to that sentence that Nikola provided about, I mean, average person who say in their practice, I know things, I do it for 20 years, come on. It is kind of, we call it implicit theories, our personal theories of things that work, that function, or doesn't function. So we sometimes are in that channel and we do not look around. But for instance, this first sentence, adult learners want to learn things that are connected to their real work or life experiences. It is really one of the very general sentence that was almost taken for granted in adult education. But we have to sometimes, maybe we can really play with this, just to put question marks at the end of some statements that we always thought that they are really very, very true and that we follow in our career. Okay, for instance, can we put question mark at the end of this sentence? Now we need especially our colleagues from health studies. We have them in the room and I suppose online as well. So what would you say? You can write in chat or colleagues on site can tell us. What would be the right answer here? A, B, C or D?
Or please open your mic and talk to us. Just raise your hand and we'll let you talk.
I'm not from the medicine, but I would say C. It's necessary to check the source and methodology of the study.
I'm from medicine, I would choose a C.
Because who told you it's 40%? Is it 29 or 69, or is that vitamin?
Of course.
Okay, thank you. So we received the same answers from our online group. I'm not in medicine, but I'm trying to think critically, and of course I knew the answer. That is privilege of lecturer. But joke aside, it is what led you, for instance, if we really do not employ our scientific knowledge here, what led you to choosing this answer C?
Research can show whether it works or not, and you have to check what research, how was it done, is it correct, is it not?
For
Are
me,
there
it's too
problems?
general.
Lack of reference.
Mm-hmm.
It's like some marketing heading. Buy this, it reduces the risk. It's too general.
Mm-hmm. So we are cautious in science and in teaching. We have to check whatever it is possible to check, or to question whatever looks to us as questionable. And therefore, it is not surprising that you've chosen answer that really reflects nature of critical thinking. The main message is please check arguments, please make sure it is based on evidence. In science, we do that all the time, it is not new. But sometimes when we are not in some field, or when we are really enthusiastic about improving our health, maybe we could oversee this logic. Maybe we could say, wow, it's excellent, now I will take as much vitamin D as I can. Maybe this is banalizing of our everyday experience and behavior, but some people just in this enormous amount of information that we are exposed to, of course, as we know, even if they are educated in some field, they would choose something which sounds or looks attractive to us in order to improve our health, especially we are motivated in that field, of course. Our health is something which is really delicate and which we are motivated about. We have some comments here. So, or if assertion is negative, we take it as truth. Yeah, it is very true. Thank you very much. It is, yeah, when we try to choose one of the answers, also as a student, we remember that time, how we think if we are not sure about the right answer, we do it also, and psychologically, as it was mentioned here, especially in advertising, we tend to take it as truth. Thank you very much. We have one more comment here from Mirza.
It's not gonna be a comment, it's just gonna be a question to you guys. If you would like to present such an argument or critical thinking online without teacher, just from your first thought, how would you present that? You don't have teacher, you have online course, and you would like to teach students this particular part. How would you present that? What do you think? What would be the best way, from your point of view, to explain some students how to do that?
Mm-hmm. We will have some examples later on and tomorrow, but of course, what we can do is to, as you will see in our guiding form tomorrow, one of the aspects that we are dealing with in teaching critical thinking is provocation. And I would maybe put only this sentence and ask students to give their answers, and then I would give them some link or lead towards some next maybe nano-learning short format that can provide them with arguments why it is true or false, and they can self-reflect on that, for
So
example.
without the choice, without having the choice of correct answer.
Yes.
Just
They
statement?
just have statement and choices, and without correct answers, and then as we
Leading
have,
to correct
yes,
source.
and then, for example, we can lead them to some structured information in some short nano learning format that explains them, that provides them arguments from which they can see whether they were right or wrong.
What about podcast, you and Nikola, doing exactly what you're doing here? What do you think about such approach?
That's also possible, but then the learner is a passive role.
No, you are stopping. Oh, in this moment, please stop,
Mhm.
try to answer, and then continue watching, and then you are explaining what you did right now. What do you think about it?
That's also possible. The way of teaching in Nano format is that someone need to reflect to do some really short activity, like to choose the correct answer from these 4 options, and then the system, if we don't have a teacher, system will provide us feedback with explanation, short explanation. And that we also put at the slide, that we need to clearly explain what we learned from this example, or give the students to read the simple definition and to understand why they select the correct or false answer. And yeah, that could be in any format: video, interactive video, podcast, simple answer, or yeah, there is a lot of like riddle or any other format. But it's important that it's really short activity which activates students to be engaged with the question, to do something really simple, like choose something or provide some comments, or compare the comments with other students in a forum format or something like that. There is a lot of options.
Yeah, then third part can be providing some text where they can critically read it and recognize sentences that do not belong to that argumentation, that are false, that leads them towards in other directions. So it brings us back to very important, I think, feature of nano-learning is that it is ecosystem of many short and effective products that we should connect for students in order to lead them through their interactivity and to tease them to ask for more and for next step in order to really learn for themselves. This is not easy. This is not easy to transfer these face-to-face methods, so to call it, to a digital environment for learning, and we are going to deal that with that, especially tomorrow, but also for our online participants. We will provide one table with explained methods that we can use in teaching face-to-face, but also one column is particularly devoted to the fact, to the ideas provided, how we can transfer that into the digital learning mode. So, if that answers questions or curiosity, I think we should go further on, and then again, of course, open opportunity to discuss at the end. I think we had one question here.
No, this is for previous.
Okay, all right. Thank you. What is also, I mean, we are going back to reflection just shortly. What is important, in many definitions you would find that critical reflection is so crucial, so important. We should reflect on our practice, and these approaches are really grounded in multidimensional understanding of the teaching profession, but also of the profession of researchers. We all, as scientists, experts, associates in some teams, are in position to teach or to exchange knowledge with our associates very often. And we are often in multidimensional roles, really. We are teachers, we are researchers, we are someone who should be autonomous in their own career, we are creating our opportunities. All those roles that activating us, as sometimes that it is claimed, according to many authors nowadays, especially in the field of education, that reflection is necessary for all those processes. So that's why it is very present in literature. Some authors make difference between reflective and reflexive practitioners, claiming that reflective practitioner is every expert, every teacher, every researcher who simply reflect on their own practice, and reflexive practitioner is one who are really maybe who tend to ask deep questions about what can be changed, how I relate it to my knowledge and so on, but maybe this division is not something what is necessary. So we can go on and just make a short introduction into something that is really maybe more providing thoughts and ideas how to translate these approaches into the practice, especially if you are teacher or leader of some scientific teams. So, according to our knowledge to research studies, theoretical framework is one of really important foundations of our providing or developing our strategy. As Mirza asked now, we should make a strategy in applying this knowledge into nano-learning system or approach to education by knowing what are important aspects of critical thinking that we want to develop, then by knowing about the specific topic, specific field that we are dealing with, but also about approaches to teaching. How do we develop or nurture all those capabilities or aspects of critical thinking in students? By what methodology and by what strategies that we use? So this is complex. If we ourselves do not well understand critical thinking, then we know what will happen. So this is, in the next slide, one table offering, based on studies on nature of critical thinking and modern pedagogy theories that are in the background of those approaches. There are, in the right column, our suggestions or our ideas on what can we do in order to meet those requirements or to meet these principles of approach to teaching critical thinking. There are 4 very important aspects of critical thinking that are based on recent literature approach. One that we tackled already is this contextuality as one of characteristics of critical thinking. We can't really look at that, as we said, out of context of knowledge, and this is one of aspects of context in this understanding, but also we have individual and social context, as we know. We have institutional context. We have abilities to understand issues in a framework that is developed by that context or context of our discipline, and we are trying to go out of that box sometimes in order to better understand, but we are socially and individually determined as learners. And also learning environment as a context. Are we learning in formal or non-formal setting? Are we learning through self-directed learning? Are we learning online or we are learning face-to-face, and so on? And in the right column, as I said, you have these suggestions. For instance, in order to respect all those aspects of contents, we should really try to know your group very well, to rely on previous level of their knowledge on things, and very important, to create space for trust and openness and ability to really question even our, not even our, but to question our thoughts and our statements or statements of some authors, of course based on arguments, based on well-formulated ideas. Also, we want all actors to be engaged, we as teachers or researchers and people who we learn with or who we teach. We have to make sure we provide variety of communication, digital tools in this context, and again enhance feedback mechanism following specific task or modules. Authors in the field of pedagogy and education remind us how in online setting it is important to think even more about this feedback and individual characteristics of learning. So as much as we can do it, we will develop that environment that is really stimulative and friendly for critical thinking. Then multi-perspectivity, as we know, interdisciplinarity, opportunity to look or to summarize different perspectives, very important. In that direction, we should first respect diverse experiences of learners and provide as much as we can presence or expressions of perspectives of different scientists or authors, whether it is within one discipline or interdisciplinary. And this is very important and very delicate aspect, creating cognitive tension by introducing views that challenge students or own or dominant beliefs. It looks sometimes as fun, sometimes as easy, but we should be cautious here. Cognitive dissonance is that mechanisms that is awaked at the moment when we, for instance, express to some audience some thought that is totally opposite or different from what majority of them believe or what they knew from before. And in that moment, some people would really really reject the idea that that is true, and some people would really experience that as transformative moment when they start learning about some things from really different perspective. But we as teachers or as leaders of that process should be very cautious, because we shouldn't make that cognitive dissonance really huge so that people feel really reluctant to learn, confused, or feel also emotional conflict in that moment. We as teachers should be aware of that, and especially in online, in digital environment, when we cannot see them in real time, and we should think about it. It is, Vygotsky has that term about zone of approximate learning, proximal learning, and this is something that we should know about our learners, what they can do, and move just a step above that, but very carefully. So it is, some other authors in transformative learning, they would call it climate of challenging. We challenge thoughts and critical thinking, but knowing very well what are capacities of learners to absorb it. And at the end, we talked about reflexivity a lot, and what are suggestions for strategies we should use as much as we can. Case studies without given solution, and feedback, and other opportunities to ask and reflect, and to self-reflect. And at the end, I think we are all familiar with Bloom's taxonomy, which is presented here. It is classification of goals of learning, divided through these levels, domains of learning. You can see even different variations nowadays, because Bloom's associates and followers improved a bit this classification. This is related to cognitive domain only. His associates later on developed classifications for psychomotor and for affective level. What you see here and what is practical in our experience, in our everyday work, especially if we are teachers and we need to develop curricula, and this is case also for digital learning and nano learning, we should start with these levels. What do we want people, to remember? What do we want them to understand, apply, analyze, evaluate, and create? And as many levels we tackle with our strategies and with our content, with our goals and outcomes, the better, especially in dealing with critical thinking as complex phenomenon. And if we would go back to the beginning and look at the outcomes defined for this training today and tomorrow, you would recognize some words, some verbs that are given here in order to make our practice in developing goals and especially outcomes good enough in order to know that we are providing to a group of people knowledge that they should have, they can absorb, and they can control, so that we can later follow up what they really gain from this section or training or lecture. Okay, I will stop here. Nikola wanted to add
Yes,
something.
just one small task for all of you. Please, if you have any application for large language model, like ChatGPT, DeepSeek, or any other, please ask your chatbot to help you to find out which digital tools you could use for developing some of those Bloom's taxonomy cognitive domains. And there is a lot of these pyramids which is now outdated. You can find online where they put a lot of the different tools for each of these domains. And the same tool, I could say, that you could use for different domain. For example, Wikipedia you can use for the first one, but also for understanding and something between understand and apply, because it depends how you are using the Wikipedia. Are you just reading the articles, or you are producing and creating articles? And because of that, it's really useful tool for preparing you for creating digital content. And we also developed some questions or forms which will help you to plan your digital creation of your digital activity. We will share with you after this session, and tomorrow with the people in Zoom we will go step by step through this form.
Thank you, Nikola. I think we can steal 5 minutes at least from the break if there are some inputs from colleagues online and on-site about your experiences, how this relates to that, what you do in your teaching or research and practice. Are there thoughts that you disagree with? As Nikola said, please unmute and come with any of your thoughts, not only in chat. I think it is possible, yeah? For them to unmute themselves. Okay.
I will stop sharing our screen that we can see each other's better. We would like to invite you with this presentation to reflect on your own practice and to open up the space for your future reflections. When you start to using some tools, or when you start to plan some activity, that you take into account some of those theories, approaches, ideas before you make the decision how to create some educational activity. It's a complex process. It's not just using a tool, but there is, as I hope you understand from this lecture, a lot of steps behind and a lot of processes behind just creating the final activity for our learners. If you want to share some experience of using some tool, it's also time to and good introduction for our next session.
Okay. Maybe we will hear some of you later on. I think maybe we should now stop. Thank you very much for your attention. I hope we managed to exchange some thoughts with you during this always short time.